this video, we're going to be talking about bill of materials and how to use those to build your quotes and estimating and run those through production and project management so you can see everything you need to know about the products that you're selling to your customers and going to be manufacturing for them in your manufacturing shop. Now, this is going to be an extensive video, so what I have done is included the timeline down below in the video, so if there's anything that you don't want to see and you want to jump ahead, you certainly can do that, and of course you can rewind for anything that you've skipped too far ahead then you need to go back to, okay? So in this instance over here, we're going to be starting with our inventory, and everything is built around inventory with respect to our bill of materials. So there's going to be two types of inventory that we're going to be talking about. The first one is going to be finished goods, and the second thing is going to be everything else that's not a finished good, okay? So they can be components, accessories, materials, doesn't make a difference. Now, you have to have a finished good in order to put the bill of material into. So bill of material is being used from your other inventory components to build out a finished good. In this particular example, I'm going to be focusing on the sign industry because everything is basically custom, whether or not it's going to be a product that's going to be typically what you would call standard product. It's still being built for that specific customer, okay? So it could be a custom solution or a standard solution. Nevertheless, bill of materials is going to be used here. Now, before I get any further, there's going to be three circumstances or three recommendations I'm going to make so you understand how you can most benefit from Mothernode's inventory and bill of materials. The first one is going to be, obviously, if you're selling products routinely, so acrylic signs, let's just say, or photopolymer signs, or you manufacture in a different industry, but you have these standard products that you're selling, you basically want to make sure that you have all of the inventory and all of the components that are put into your Mothernode account where you can draw from to build these bill of materials or use to build these finished goods, okay? Those are going to be the bill of materials that you're going to need. Now, the second circumstance is going to be you have standard product that you want to sell in standard configurations. You can go ahead and build out those default templates to begin with using your bill of materials, and then in the quoting and estimating process, take the closest product that's being sold and then make your modifications from there, okay? So a good example would be this. If you have a 9x9 plaque sign that you have that's an acrylic plaque sign with your common materials, etc., that's in the program, if somebody will order an 8x9, you can go to the 9x9 size, price from that, and make the necessary adjustments, okay? You'll see this come into play, but things to think about along the way as we're going through this. And finally, the last but most practical is any account that you have that's going to be an ongoing account with your service, let's just say a national account where you're constantly getting the same orders over and over again to produce and manufacturing the same products as part of, in this case, let's just say a sign program for either a hospital system, higher education, corporation, or even hotel chain, things like that, where you have a brand book or a brand solution in place that they're going to be pulling from to order. Make sure that you build out those signs within your inventory module so you can easily add from them in the future. We're going to be using one of those as an example, though this example covers all ground, everything that we just talked about, okay? Just for convenience sake, those orders that come through, you can quickly add them to new quotes or direct orders and get them right into manufacturing as fast as possible with limited effort, okay? All right, so that being said, because we are looking at the sign industry, I have a variety of different industries within this Mothernode account, but I've chosen to pull up the ones that have to do with signage and signage components. So let's just pretend we're going to be working with acrylic or photopolymer. We're going to be making some plaque signs, nothing big, but there are a lot of parts that go into that. So for instance, I have some materials over here. I also have some back plates that I have, and then I have some additional items that could be mounting and such and so on, okay? So I have all of that information here. So I'm just gonna, as an example, if I look on my sign parts, just to give you some idea, I have my mounting tapes and, cable suspended items. I've also put in here some non-tangible items that I want to use for configuration. So as an example here, I've put in Braille is one, okay, and then I also have my corners for my signs. I've also put in fonts, paint colors, and such. So in this instance, I have everything I need to build out with a product that I'm going to be making, whether or not standard or custom, using these parameters. So everything is listed immediately. There's no guesswork. Now, I will also tell you this. You don't have to get this elaborate. You can be as basic as you want or as elaborate as you want to be. It's all available to you, and you can mix and match or change your mind along the way. Okay, so I'm just using these as examples so we can see them come together. All right, this isn't going to be an overview of our inventory module per se, because there's a lot that you can be doing with our inventory module, but we're just going to be focusing on the bill of materials and building out these products. So let's get into taking a look at one of these guys over here. I'm going to type in sign type as an example. All right, so in this case here, I have some preloaded items that are signs for the sign industry, different ones, mostly interior signs that I'm seeing here. And I want to focus on this one down here, which is going to be sign type 4, men and women's restroom sign. Now, I also want to clarify that this doesn't make a difference whether or not this is going to be a standard product that you're selling that's a men and women's restroom sign of a specific size, something generic that a customer may need as a one-off. But it also can be part of a sign program that's specific to a customer, has all their properties, their branding information, their colors, and so on and so forth, okay? This exercise has nothing to do with either or, because all is applicable. So I'm going to open up this record over here. And again, I'm not going to get into the details of inventory, all things you can be doing with this. We're going to focus exclusively on bill of materials and building out a sign and putting those components together, okay? So I want this to be a finished good that has everything I need to know about it. Colors, mounting, corners, Braille, whatever that is, it's already going to be in here. So I've got this information over here, and remember, this has to be, inventory type has to be a finished good, okay? If it's a component, I will not be able to add other components to a component. It has to be flipped to a finished good. So in this case over here, what I'm going to do is I want to look off to the right-hand side. And the right-hand side over here is going to have some specifics that are important to me about this particular product. This is going to be the cost, and the cost, so you're aware, is going to be both the materials and the components that are being used to build this plus the labor, okay? Assuming that you're going to be tracking labor in this as well, you have the ability to do that, and this is going to be the cost, is going to be the materials plus labor. We will see this in just a moment. But on the outside here, what I'm looking at is this. I have my markup on top of this, and it's giving me a unit sale price of $826, okay? As always, I have the markup calculator. If I want to change this to $900, I can do that, and then it just basically say that this is what the markup is for this. You can see the markup changes, the unit sale price changes, but the cost is the cost. Now, what's important about this is that you actually have two options available to you. What I'm showing you right now is the more popular option. That is using the bill of materials to determine the cost of this sign to you, okay? So all the materials together and the labor come out to $413. That is my cost. Now, alternatively, what you can do is you can basically say, I don't want to use BOM pricing, and I want this cost to be $500 no matter what. So the importance about that is that it will override anything that you have in bill of materials, which may work for you in some circumstances, but may work against you in other circumstances. You need to be aware of what those circumstances are. If you price out more in your bill of materials, you need to make sure that you understand that that's why it's displayed here, that the overall price is $413. So you want to make sure you don't go ahead and price out something that's less than that, because you're going to be losing money, assuming that you're not marking it up, but of course most people are. So if I do this here and I have the markup, then you can see here that now this is marked up 100%. My unit sell price has gone to $1,000. For the sake of the exercise, I'd like to retain this and go back to this and being my markup being 100, and over here it's going to be $826. So the other thing I get to see now, because this is a finished good and I have bill of materials and I can apply bill of materials, and over here I'm going to see I have edit BOM. All right, so we're going to click on the edit bill of materials, and now this is going to open up a screen that's going to give us all of the components and materials that go into building this product. And so let's take a look at the screen together here, and then we'll get into some of the details as we go through. We'll get our bearings first. I have an item name. Now in this case, it's calling it sign type 4, and that's the assumption that this is a product that's made for an existing customer as part of their sign plan. Most cases you'll probably see something like if you're building a generic template for a product to begin with, you would have, acrylic sign 9x9, something like that. Then you can make any adjustments you want along the way, but in this instance, that's where the item name is being used to reflect the item that it's going to be the finished good in which you're building out the components that go into building that, okay? Now off to the side over here, you can see that I have quantity 1. So this is being sold as an individual product, which most will be. And in this case here, we have quantity 1. Our total materials are $392, and that is going to be an accumulation of everything that you see priced within the materials tab. Then we have the total labor, which is $21 to build one of these items, and that is everything that's going to be in the labor tab. We'll be taking a look at that in a moment. And then there is the unit cost, which is the combination of the materials and the labor put together to give us that unit cost. Now also here I can adjust the markup as I could on the previous screen. Normally when I'm building something out here, I'm going to be working on my markup here. If I need to make any changes after the fact, I can do that elsewhere without having to get into here. But this is where I want to usually get all of my pricing because I can see how everything's impacted down below, okay? Again, you have the calculator if you want to override the pricing and put whatever you want in there, and it'll give you the markup that's necessary. It will never distort or touch the cost in this case, okay? I showed you how to do that, override that on the previous screen. That will not happen here on this screen. I have some essentials down below is how this is being calculated, what the sizes are, what the unit of measure is, and so on. So that's traditional what you see. Weights will be important, especially if you're going to be shipping these via FedEx and UPS. You know that Mothernode can hail those companies and print out the labels and such, and so the weight would be used to calculate how much this shipment is going to be, and so it would take the accumulation of all the quantities and the weights that are involved, and then of course use that for the final weight for the products that are going to be sent out. So if you're building any crates, etc., that will be something else, but at the same time in this instance you're going to get the product weight, so always make sure you have that in your inventory. All right, down below with the materials here, this is going to be a listing of all the materials that I've already added, all the components that I've already added to this product that we want to have available to us with the bill of materials that's going to be listed here. So some of these are going to be non-tangibles, right? Like fonts, for instance, like that's not something you have in stock. It's just a descriptor that you're including in there as well. Same thing with the corners that I've chosen here, okay? So I can have my radius corners, non-radius corners, whatever that may be, and then include those like I've showed you early on within the inventory. Now what's really important about this is that you can be as basic or as detailed as you want to be when you're building out your products using the bill of materials and options such as these, okay? So you can think of those kind of things as some things that would be beneficial. There's gonna be some folks that want to do something really easy and simple and just get it out the door, but I would say that if this is going into a shop to be produced, then even though you have drawings that may exist, you probably want to encapsulate as much information as you possibly can, because this is the kind of information that will also be appearing on the quotes and the orders, so the customer will have access to seeing all this information as well. Now there's a lot of details over here that's very basic as to how many of these items are being used, and then what the quantities are and what the price is, and the formula for calculating this. So for instance, acrylic sheets is based on area of this particular sign, and then also in this instance over here, mounting is going to be based on a unit of measure of each. Now one thing to note that's extremely important, I can sell any of these components with a markup individually. So for instance, if somebody wants to buy an example here, a roll of vinyl. Okay, I have that vinyl available to me in my stock where I can sell a roll of vinyl and I can mark that up. Just note that when they are used as bill of materials to build out a finished good, markups are not applied to the components that are being added, because in that case then you'd be double marking up. Okay, so collectively when it's put together in a product like this, you're going to be using the markup for the finished good, which is being applied to everything that's coming together here. So just one thing to note, that you won't be double marking up in that case. All right, if you want to remove something, removing is extremely easy. So remember, I'm in the inventory module right now. This is where I'm assembling a template to sell this particular product. So I'm not going to be adding and removing all the time here, but I will be doing that possibly in the quote or the order. Assuming that if this were made for an existing customer and had their specifications, then all the better to me. When I'm quoting that, you'll see that I'm not going to be making many adjustments, if any at all. But if I'm using this as a starting point, a template for an 8x8 sign, an acrylic sign of a specific material, thickness and such, then I may want to make some changes. I would do those at the quote itself, okay, or the order. So let's just go ahead and remove something as an example. So let's just say here that I didn't want to use the bold one for this customer. I want to remove this, and now I'm going to go ahead and add, I'll look for fonts. And what's really nice here is that I can stay in this screen, this pop-up, as long as I want to keep adding items to, so I don't have to keep closing this to add and add and add. I can just stay here and do what I need to. So for instance, let's just say mounting is an example, and something you may want to consider for certain circumstances, not saying it's applicable to all. But you can have a couple of different mounting options here. Like we did the tape, but let's just say that I want to add, let's just say this could be a flag sign and I want to have a projecting mount here, or this could be used on a fabric, so I want to include fabric pins. Okay, so you can see again, added these, never left the screen. So what's happening over here is this. My mounting options are as follows for this. I have 3 different options that when I sell this particular sign, this restroom sign, well, typically you wouldn't see it using fabric pins, but I could see a projecting sign that would be in a hall, or it could be mounted on the wall, or maybe it's a combination of both. One of the options that you have with your bill of materials is that you can package it up with these 3 options. And then when estimating, all you have to do is remove the options that don't apply. Okay, so you can see here what I just did would ultimately be what I don't need to do. So as an example here, what I can also do is, let me do this again. I'll type in mounting, and then I'll add the tape again. And what I'll do is I'll also, let me just put this back over here. I'll do that. We'll work with these ones again, and then I can make a remark, okay? And I can call this one, standard option. Okay? And I'll save this, and what we'll do is we'll save and close this when we're done, and it'll retain these. So we'll see how that looks in the quote when we're putting this together. All right, again, if I want to jump to places very quickly, I can by clicking on the hot links above. These are going to be representative of all the categories of items that I have that are listed in here. So it's very easy to get your bearings of what you're seeing here and such. Everything's very, very nice. All right, let's take a look at now labor. So I'm going to click on the labor tab. So what I'm seeing here is that I've assigned a workflow to this based on building an acrylic sign. Now, this is used in the estimating process, and it's drawing from the same workflow that production would be using when they're going ahead and they're scheduling jobs in production. I will say that you can ad hoc some of the changes that you want to make here. So for instance, if there's a slight change, let's just say that I want to, let's pretend that I don't have digital print as an example. And I want to go ahead from here and I want to add digital print. I can go ahead and I can add that, and then I can, resort it the way I want it to be, etc. That doesn't really make much of a difference when you're pricing, but production has the exact same capabilities when they want to build off their workflows. But ultimately, you can see here, everything I'm getting is going to be affecting my final price across the top here. So if I want to get rid of this as an example, I can make an adjustment. You can always make these ad hoc workflows if you want, but we obviously are going to recommend, as much as you can, work off traditional workflows that you have in there, and then you can flavor those up to be a little bit more custom in certain circumstances. You can also change the workflow anytime that you want. So over here you can see I have Work Center 1, Work Center 2, etc., and it overrides this, and you can see here now that my labor has skyrocketed. These are more expensive workflows, and this one over here is now $600, and my unit price has gone to $2,000. So again, this is a demo account with some crazy things in it, so that's one of those crazy things, but you never know, you may have some departments that are going to be kind of costly in that case. So I'm going to go back over here to my my Signage Co example. I'll do that here. I'm going to leave this as is. And again, I have everything I need. And always remember, I can't state this enough, production can make changes to this workflow as they see fit along the way. And part of that includes the change order process, where you would also be including some of the, if there was any cost changes that went along with this, that could also be factored in as well. All right, the final tab over here is going to be the shop drawings. So if you have any shop drawings that go along with this customer's brand solution, or any architects and designers that have sent you over some submittal drawings or some presentation drawings, and you have the shop drawings that go along with this, you can go ahead and upload those. They can be as detailed or as basic as you want. You'll see in this example that this is a JPEG graphic, and it's a very poor resolution. So you want to use PDFs where you get rich quality, because you'll see that in the example as we go further, the more that this is going to be exploded on a screen, and it has a poor resolution, it may be difficult to see. So maybe just for interpretation purposes, but we recommend using PDFs so you get that rich quality. So again, that's all you have here. We have the labor, the materials, and then the shop drawing and everything we have here that makes up this particular product. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to hit save and close. We'll close this over here, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go into looking at a quote. All right, so now we're going to make a quote, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding a couple of products that we have from inventory, including the one that we've already made. We've taken a tour on that one. We want to see what that looks like in a quote. We'll start with that one, and then we'll work with a couple of other ones, just so you can see from an estimator's perspective the kind of information that they can have available to them, as well as from a project management perspective, the kind of information you have available to you in the order when you're making sure that everything is as it should be before it goes to the shop. So this is going to be a very detailed explanation of quotes. We have other videos on that. In this case here, we're going to move right into the order, the quote line items here, where we're going to add an inventory item. Okay, so in this instance over here, I'm going to search for something, just a couple of things to just mention very quickly as practical solutions. Is you can only look for favorites if you want. So if the customer has specific ones that they have a lot of signs or a lot of products, and in this instance you just want to filter down to some of the hot ones that they traditionally order or reorder from, then you can tag those as favorites and only filter on those. Bill of material is going to be limiting the search results to only being inventory items that have bill of materials. Those are finished goods with bill of material items. And then if you have a client's catalog in inventory and you're searching on something, it's only going to search their catalog and nothing else. So you won't see a blend of different inventory items that may not belong to them. All right, so in this case here, I am going to turn on the bill of material just to shorten this, and then I'm going to type in the word sign type. Let's do that. And I'm going to click search, and then you're going to see the ones that are appearing here from the sign type catalog that had to do with what we were looking at, and this is the one down here that we were working with. So you can see here I have my my unit cost, my markup, and then I don't have a quantity yet, so I'm going to do 5 of these, and as I mentioned earlier, I'll do a couple more of these. All right, now I'm going to click save and add. And there we go. We've added these here. Okay. Now, at this particular point, this is where you need to make some determinations. If I was setting this up for an existing account, I should already know that everything is as it should be or could be. And I'm confident that I can send this quote to the customer because all of the construction details are exactly the way they were intended to be. You can see that we did this on the back end. We're confident that this is good. Now, if you're using this as a template for a starting point, even with an existing customer that has a signed plan with maybe different options, then you definitely want to make sure that you're going to take the time to go in and inspect to make sure that everything is as you want it to be in this quote. So I have these items here. Let's take the one that we first started with. Okay, so I'm going to look at this. And the screen looks relatively familiar, but there are a few minor changes to it, okay, or a few minor enhancements. Because this is actually now in a transaction, there's more that's relevant to it in the transaction level than there actually is to the inventory. So for instance, if I need to override the taxable option on this, I can. But we also know that we have tax options in our quotes and our orders that basically allow us to include tax exempt numbers, and if we have those, then tax wouldn't be charged at all. So you still have some tighter controls here as to what you want to do, and then we have our items down below as far as our materials are concerned and our components that we want to have. Now an example is that when I go down here, you can see now that I know from using this sign type over and over again and selling it to different customers that I have the ability to see that there's a remark here. I have the ability to go ahead and remove what I don't find applicable to me, okay? So in this case, yes, I'm only gonna take one mounting option. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it's easier just to remove than it is to add in this case, so I just have to click those buttons and they're gone. Of course, if I made a mistake, I just have to add them back. It's no big deal. Now, again, this is something that you typically do in the transaction level. It makes things a lot easier, but just know what it is that you're doing and know what it is that you're pricing, okay? So in that case, you have access to that. And then I have some additional information across the top here that I think is helpful. Number one, I actually see the image of the sign that I'm working in, which is practical when I'm getting into a couple of different items that I'm going to be working with within my line items. I can see the image. And then I also have, and this is extremely important, I also have the default description that is used in the inventory item, okay? That is a description that is used in the inventory item that I've either put in, overwrote, or whatever, okay? That doesn't necessarily mean that it's the description of the items that are down below. So especially if you start making adjustments, you either may want to override this manually or have Mothernode basically apply the recipe of components down below into the description. If you do that, you will lose this and you will go into either a vertical option or a horizontal option. So what is that? Well, the information, for instance, in the vertical option is displaying the information in a vertical format. It's taking the bill of materials list down below and it is including that all here. It's not breaking down into prices. It's not showing the component pricing down below, nor is it going to show any labor costs. This is basically what the product is that you're selling and how much it costs as a whole, and the item that's being represented on the quote is going to be the total quantity of 5 at a sell price of $826 per unit, okay? And this is what's being explained here, what is down below, okay? So you have that. Now, if you want to go horizontal, you can do that, and now the description will be more compact and it'll put it in a horizontal format. Now, some people may prefer the convenience or the legibility, I suppose, of looking at it like this. Just remember that it's going to have an impact on the size of your quote. So the number of pages that are going to be used in your quote are going to be impacted by which description format you choose to use. Now, it may not matter to you or your customer, so if it doesn't and they're okay with seeing a bunch of pages that have it like this, that's great. If they want to see something a little bit more slimmer, you've got like maybe 50, 60 line items, this might be the solution for you. Either way, it doesn't really matter as long as the information is all there, okay? So whatever you do down below, if you make an adjustment or a change, then you want to make sure that you click this to update whatever that default will be, okay? Unless you're content with using what's in the inventory, that description that's already there, that will be the one that you can use, all right? So there's that. So let's go ahead. We're gonna flip this one to the vertical default, and I'm gonna hit save and close. Let's take a look at the two others that we have here, okay? So again, these are as they should be to me for this example. Nothing is really going to be changing. Everything here looks solid and fine. Maybe I don't want to have an eye bolt in there, so that was another option as an example. I'll click save and close or save here, and I'll just do save and close on this, change this to a vertical format. So you can see now what this looks like in the quote. This one over here looks like this, not really consistent. So over here what I'm going to do is this, I'm going to click on this, do the vertical, make sure that nothing looks funky here. Yeah, let's get rid of the eye bolt, not an option. Click save and close, and now I am ready to go. Okay, so let's just take a look at this printout. and I click on print. And because I have images included, okay, I'm going to include the product profile. I'm also going to include the images in the line item, and then of course my fictitious signature here. And I'm going to go here and I hit print, and it's going to produce the PDF. So this is what the customer is going to see. They're going to see the page layout that has the description plus a nice sized image of this, so we can see that this is sign type 1, this is sign type 3, and in this case here this is sign type 4, and we see how much it's costing, how much we're selling it for, and everything that you have is great. Now down below it trails with the PDF format here, which is going to be the dimensions of the sign, the shop drawing that goes along with this. This is an exploded view that the customer gets a chance to see. So it has the details here, and then of course the next one is this item here with the details, all the construction details down below, and then of course this one here is the final one. So this is a really nice way to package up your quote to a customer that ensures that they have all the right information to make the decision whether or not they're buying for the first time or rebuying from you. Everything's going to be signed and documented accordingly. There's no mystery. Now, if I am submitting this electronically, what's really nice is that they sign this electronically, their signature would appear over here, and then it would trail to appear down below with all of these exploded view drawings. Okay, so really, really nice that there's no mystery of what it is that they're purchasing. Everything is in detail as it should be. All right. Okay, now from the estimator's perspective, let's see what other tools you have available to you. All right, so let's take a look at our print options for the estimator to take a look at the details of this quote from a bill of materials and time estimates and everything that would go into your estimating worksheet that you want to see behind the scenes. This is not something that you're sending to the customer. This is giving you a hard copy or a copy on screen, which is a breakdown of everything that you need to know about, and they may have an impact on making some notes and decisions so your project managers are aware of that. Hey, there's a lot of things that we normally don't stock that we're going to need for this, or we want to make sure that we have a lot of these XYZs in stock when we go ahead and we place this order, because you'll see this information here. So you have a couple of options. When we choose the BOM worksheet here, we're going to have the cover sheet, which I want. Time and labor, maybe you want to see that, maybe you don't. I'll print that for sure. Shop drawings, if you want to have that accumulating with this as well, it's going to be an extra page. You can have that on there if you need. And then also you have compact view, which would basically try and do its best to minimize the amount of paper that you're using. I'm not going to choose that in this case. Compact would just push everything together and have it sort of run on to the next page and such. Okay, so again, for the sake of this exercise, I'm going to leave it like this, and I'm going to hit print. All right, so when I hit print over here, the first thing I'm getting is a summary of the quote. Okay, we're not seeing details like costs at this point. I don't really care. I want to see what's going into the quote. We're going to see all of the other items that are going to be on the following pages. So this is the summary cover sheet, if you will, that has sign type 1, 3, and 4. And then down below that, this is extremely important. This is the summary of the bill of materials that go into making this entire order. Okay, so this is going to be all three of those line items and all of the materials that are being used and you'll need to assemble in order to produce that. Now, very important about this sheet is that it also includes the printed time that's on this as well, the date and time. So this is going to be relevant around the time that you're printing this. If you print this out and you're seeing the bill of materials and what you have available in stock, 3 weeks from now it's going into the shop and you're seeing this, these numbers will probably be outdated. I guarantee you they will be outdated if you're tracking that information within your shop. So you want to make sure that you're just using this to assemble your bill of materials, what it is you need. You can get some insight into what you may be having to order, which is important, but again, along the way, that is going to be outdated information very quickly. Finally, just a note about what you're seeing on screen here. This is a demo account, and it's very rare that stock is replenished in this demo account, so which is why you're seeing a lot of unavailable items here. But again, it does emphasize that if you do not have something in stock, it's going to pull it over here, so your PMs will have access to the exact same information, and they will know that they have to order or replenish some of this stock. Okay, so you have access to that there too. All right, so the next thing you want to see over here is I want to go to the next page. Now you're going to see the first item in the quote, which is going to be item number 1, sign type 1, and it's a room sign and there's a quantity of 10. Below is the bill of materials that are required exclusively to build a quantity of 10 of this particular product, okay? So it's a breakdown now exclusively looking at what goes into building this particular product. It's followed by, on the next page, going to be, and again, this was an optional printout option, is going to be the labor and the workflow that is being used to produce this particular sign. So you may or may not want to see that. In this instance over here, I'm just basically trying to determine how many hours, man hours, are actually going into producing the sign. So I want to have this here where the times are estimated in minutes, and I can just get that as part of my estimating package, okay? Once I'm done with that, I move on to the next item. And in this case here, it's going to be item 2, quantity 4, sign type 3. And then as we're seeing now, these are all the items and all the components, the bill of materials that make up the construction of this particular item, okay? And so you have all of that available to you, and you can print that, put it in your job jacket, whatever you need to do, okay? All right, so assuming that everything is great, what I would have done at this point here is I would be creating an order out of this. I'm going to click yes. So as you know, it tags the quote as 1, it falls out my open quotes list, and now I'm working directly in the order. So what I have available to me, well, I'm just going to click save. All right, so now I can check my my order entry, and you can see here that everything is as it was when it became when it was made from the quote. So all my quantities are the same. If I need to make adjustments here, I can go ahead and I can do that by adjusting the quantities. If they want to add anything, of course, you can do that and such. So this is where you're making your final adjustments. All right, so you have that, and then ultimately you can go ahead and you can print out the same production documents here. Okay, so I have the same production documents available to me. One of the other things I have available to me as a project manager is I can upload the message schedule for each one of these items. Okay, and that can be produced in the production documents, but I won't have access to that now because I don't have any messages that I'm going to be updating. Okay, so again, when I print this out, I've got my cover sheet, my total bill of materials. Always pay attention again to the printed date and my different projects or my different items that I have down below. You may not want to be printing out labor at that point. You may just care about the bill of materials, and that's perfectly fine. So that basically covers the bill of materials. You can also see this in the production module. These same documents and more are available in the production module to production personnel to print out information on screen. If you have any more questions about some of the other processes we have, you can continue watching the videos on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Mothernode. We also have more information in our support articles at support.mothernode.com. And of course, if you're new to Mothernode or looking to find out more about how Mothernode can help you in your business, visit us at mothernode.com. And please feel free to reach out for a private live demo. Thank you very much for watching this tutorial today. Hopefully this helps you in your future processes working with building standard product or also custom product. Have a good day.